Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Today, I am going to be going over the 2020 Senate. And right now, I have the map filled out with our knowns, and it is a 44 to 42 race. And so I'm just going to go through and kind of touch base on the rest of these Senate elections and show you where I think the 2020 Senate will be controlled. And so first, I'm just going to start here in the state of Colorado. Colorado is polling more and more towards Hickenlooper and away from Cory Gardner. And so for that reason, I am going to put this as a likely for the Democrats. Right now, it's over 10 percentage points. So it is fairly safe to say that Colorado will be won by the Democrats. Likewise, with the state of Michigan, I see a similar result. And that is actually, excuse me, and New Hampshire, I see as a likely towards the Democrats for the Senate. And that's all I can list as the likely seats for the Democrats. Now, for the likely seats for the Republicans, first I'm going to talk about Texas. Now, the reason I have Texas on here is because John Cornyn, of course, is the incumbent. He does have that advantage. And I don't quite believe the polling numbers that we're going to be seeing a flip in Texas this year, perhaps in 2024. I feel like it's very, very possible in 2024, 2022, but I don't see it this year. I do see John Cornyn winning another term in the Senate. In Alabama, I'm going to have this as a likely towards the Republicans as a flip. This is because Doug Jones does not have great approval rating, and right now is about 7 or 8 points behind, no matter who he faces, whether it's Tommy Tuberville or former Trump cabinet associate Jeff Sessions. I do believe that that seat will be flipped. And the main election in Georgia, I'm going to have as a lean towards, or excuse me, a likely towards the Republicans. This is because it looks as if it'll be David Perdue versus John Ossoff, and David Perdue is, of course, the incumbent. Georgia is still dealing with rampant issues of voter suppression, especially in and around the downtown of Atlanta. Over 600,000 people had one polling location for the Georgia Democratic primary. And so I do believe that that is going to be a sign of what we will see in November. And I do see Georgia, the main election that is, being a likely towards the Republican camp. And the other likely I have is, of course, the state of Kentucky. And that is because of the fact that Mitch McConnell, while the polling numbers aren't terrific, and Amy McGrath is the better candidate to go against Mitch McConnell for a chance to flip the state, I still don't see Mitch McConnell losing in a strong Republican hold like Kentucky. I just don't see it happening, not this year with such a contentious election. And so now we've got 7 more seats. We're at 46 for the Republicans, 47 for the Democrats. And now I'm going to go to the ones that I feel are a lean towards the Democrats, and that is going to be the state of Arizona and the state of Maine. Now, with Arizona and Maine, the polling numbers are very positive for the Democratic Party. Arizona, retired astronaut Mark Kelly is leading Martha McSally by about 7 points in almost every poll you can find. And then in Maine, Susan Collins is losing to her challenger by about 4 to 5 points. And so both of these leads I do feel like will hold in these states, especially Arizona is polling farther and farther away from Donald Trump. So I would think that that would have quite an effect on down ballot voting. And in Maine, Susan Collins is definitely struggling given the Donald Trump era in the Senate and what it has forced her to do. Now moving on to the states that I feel like are a slight lean towards the Republicans. And for that, I'm going to go with Kansas, Georgia's special election, and Iowa. Now, the reason for Iowa is Joni Ernst is struggling and her approval numbers are not terrific. But again, the belief is that Donald Trump will carry the state of Iowa. And with that, he would definitely be endorsing Joni Ernst for another term. I do think that it'll end up happening, but this will be an extremely close race. In Kansas, this is a race to look out for with Chris Kobach. Um, I do believe that it will end up going to the Republicans, given the fact that a Democrat has not won statewide for a Senate election in 100 years in the state of Kansas. However, this is an interesting race to look out for. The polling numbers right now are even, and it does look like it'll come down to what kind of ground can be made up over the next 4 months before the election. In the Georgia special election, there is an argument that this could be a Democrat seat, but there's not a lot of information out right now. There will be 4 candidates in this Senate election, so the belief is that it will become a runoff that will be decided in January of 2020. And it looks right now as if the runoff will be between 2 Republican um, candidates. However, if it ends up being a Republican and a Democrat, of course, I will make an updated video and include that in there. But right now, it looks like the runoff election wouldn't even take place between a Democratic candidate and a Republican candidate. So that is something to keep an eye on. However, if that does change. And that leaves us with 2 toss-ups, and that's in Montana and North Carolina, 2 of the closest toss-ups you can get. In the state of Montana, I'm going to put that as a slight tilt towards the Democrats, as well as the state of North Carolina. In Montana, you've got Steve Bullock versus Steve Daines. Daines does not have terrific approval ratings, and to make matters worse, Steve Bullock was the governor of Montana and had terrific approval ratings. Right now, the polling numbers show him up about 5%. It is going to be extremely close, given that Montana is going to be a definite Trump state. But I do see the challenger, Steve Bullock, defeating incumbent Steve Daines in the state of Montana. And in North Carolina, it's a similar story. Tom Tillis has one of the worst approval ratings of any Republican senator up for re-election this year, going up against Cal Cunningham, a veteran and a father and a family man. And I do think that that is the kind of winner, that is the kind of Democrat that can win in the state of North Carolina. So I am going to have that as a slight tilt towards the Democratic Party. And as you can see, our map has a 51-49 Democratic held Senate. And if the House holds, that would mean that Democrats would control Congress and be able to pass pretty much any law they'd like, given if Joe Biden wins. If not, then they'll have to hope that they have a veto-proof majority. But another thing to keep in mind when discussing these numbers and when discussing the 2020 election in general is something called the generalized poll. And the generalized poll is a question that is asked to likely voters in America, and it is, which party would you like to control the Congress and the president? And this year, it is 11% towards the Democrats. And according to most political analysts, when that generalized poll goes up over 10%, you see massive gains for a party in the election year. And that is what I think you can see illustrated here is a 51-49 flip of the Senate and a win for Joe Biden. Even if he doesn't win the presidency, this is a major win for Democrats if they are able to do this. Guys, stay tuned for another video. Going to do an updated electoral college map and probably a Trump's best case scenario map, just for people who don't think it's possible that he will win. But yeah, keep on the lookout for those videos. Let me know what you think below and tune in next time.